Now, today's presentation, we are so delighted to welcome a local historian and researcher and professor, Christina Sunardi, who is an associate professor in the School of Music at the University of Washington, as well as the chair of the Department of Dance. Her interests include performance, identity, gender, and spirituality in Indonesia. She has been studying and performing Javanese music and dance since 1997 in Indonesia and the United States, earning her Ph.D. in music from the University of California, Berkeley. Please welcome Christina to the stage.
Thank you. Or you know what? Okay, test. Is this? Can you hear me okay? Yeah, I think so. Can you hear me okay if I speak like this? Or does it need to be higher? Higher? Okay. Kind of, ducking a little bit until we have a chance to get this set up. So I just wanted to thank the organizers, especially to Simon Tran for inviting me today. It's a real pleasure to come and speak with you. And I also, again, wanted to thank Ki Midiyanto for coming from Berkeley to be part of this presentation. And thank you for all of you who are here on this beautiful Saturday morning to listen. And now I'm a little bit embarrassed. I didn't realize that my book was going to be promoted quite in this way. This work is drawn from research that I did for my book, and if you are interested in this line of research and line of thinking, I do develop some of the ideas more in that book. What I'll present today is a sort of article that I'm working on that is rooted in the research that I did for this book, but has kind of a different emphasis than what I have in my book. Okay. All right, how is this? Yay, okay, thank you so much. Okay, so yeah, the title of my talk today is Knowledge, Transmission, and Embodiment in East Javanese Performing Arts. And since the time that I submitted this title, I have kind of shaped this particular presentation around the issue of gender. So that will be coming out through my presentation as well. So I had the honor and the privilege of studying gamelan music and dance and a little bit of some other performing arts in East Java for my fieldwork, for my dissertation fieldwork. From about 2005 to 2007 was the sort of main time period when I was doing that work. And then I also made a number of subsequent visits, and the most recent of which was in 2015. So it's been a little while since my last trip to Malang. I did my fieldwork in Malang in East Java. Malang is a regency, or kabupaten in Indonesian. It's kind of like a county in the United States, so you could think of it that way. So Malang is the name of the regency. It's also the name of a city in the regency, which you can see on the map there. I was based a little bit east of the city of Malang in a village called Tulus Besar. Beautiful place. If you haven't been and you're looking for places to go, it's really quite stunning. Before I went to Malang, I had spent time in Central Java as well, in Yogyakarta, and a little bit in Surakarta, which are indicated on the map as well. So it's been a really amazing journey to study in Indonesia all these years. And I've also studied gamelan in the United States as well with amazing musicians, including Ki Midiyanto. Let's see. So for those who may not be super familiar with gamelan music, it's a type of ensemble in Indonesia, and there's many different kinds of gamelan ensembles in different parts of Indonesia. The ensemble that I have studied the most is Javanese gamelan. It's comprised of a variety of different metal keyed instruments, like metal xylophones, kind of. There is also a wooden xylophone in the Javanese gamelan, and you can see what this musician is playing up here. Well, maybe it's hard, maybe you can't see my cursor so well. But in the upper right photograph, there's a musician playing, it looks kind of like little pots. That's a type of gong that's strung horizontally and played melodically. And then there are also gongs that are hung vertically and played as well. There's also drums in the gamelan, really incredible system of drumming and voice, and there's a bowed fiddle that sounds kind of like a violin, and other instruments as well. And we're so lucky today to have Ki Midiyanto here, who will be playing one of the instruments from the gamelan called gender. We'll lift this screen, and the gender is all set up behind it. So you'll get to hear it, and it's really incredible. I also studied a variety of dances in East Java, which for the most part fall within the sort of umbrella of traditional dance. And these included masked and non-masked dances. So I have here a picture of some dancers here performing. Just to give you a little taste of what East Javanese dance, well, I should say what one of the East Javanese dances that I studied looks like, I have a YouTube video available, and you can look this up on YouTube as well and see. It features a Central Javanese dancer named Didit Nini Tawok, who's very well known in Indonesia for performing a variety of dances and also comedy. Here he's performing a dance called Beskalan Putri, which is from Malang. And I have to say that watching him perform this dance in San Francisco when I was in graduate school was what inspired me to study dances in East Java. So let's try to get this playing. Okay, so that's just to give you a taste of it. You could hear the gamelan, you could hear the drumming, and notice the movements that he was doing too, and he was manipulating this dance scarf as he was dancing. So as I was studying gamelan music and dance in Malang, for many of the teachers and other performers who mentored me, studying the playing techniques of the instruments and the movements of the dances was only part of the learning process. If I really wanted to enrapture my audiences and have people continue to want to hire me, I was told I would need ilmu, which can loosely be translated as spiritual knowledge. As the gamelan musician Jumai explained, art requires ilmu and practice. Because of the ilmu that some of my teachers and other performers emphasized in process of learning dances like Beskalan Putri, which you just saw, as well as other dances and gamelan music, I have been inspired to explore ilmu and processes of learning East Javanese arts and to think through the ideological implications of pedagogy. That is, citing the ethnomusicologist Deborah Wong, quote, "What's at stake politically in any pedagogical model," unquote. So as part of this work, I think through implications for the cultural and ideological production and expression of gender. And today my argument is that through their beliefs, practices, and verbal discourses about ilmu, musicians and dancers in Malang were maintaining and producing local systems of knowledge, transmission, and competence, and in so doing, in many cases, challenging dominant Indonesian conceptual and physical boundaries of gender. Such dominant ideologies which separate maleness from femaleness, map femininity to female bodies, map masculinity to male bodies, as well as privilege and normalized heterosexuality, have been shaped over hundreds of years by Javanese aristocratic ideas, 19th and 20th century Dutch colonial ideas, and Islamic discourses, and have been promoted by the Indonesian government since the Declaration of Independence in 1945. I have been interested in the ways that artists maintain local ways of knowing, teaching, learning, and doing the arts despite quote-unquote modernity and the institutionalization of the arts in schools since the early 20th century that have been influenced by Western systems of thought and pedagogy. Influence that largely stems from the impacts of Dutch colonialism and has continued into Dutch colonial, or I should say, into post-colonial times. I am also interested in the continuation of what many artists positioned as Javanese spirituality, despite the increase in expressions of Islamic orthodoxy and piety in Indonesia since the 1970s and a deepening since the 1980s. Such expressions have largely been influenced by Middle Eastern culture, which has sparked cultural debate in Java about the place of local culture. On the one hand, adopting aspects of Middle Eastern culture, such as styles of dress, which you can kind of see among the audience members in the background at this particular performance, and also the adoption of Arabic words and phrases in everyday language, such as Assalamu alaikum, or peace be upon you, is a way for some Javanese to present their senses of self as modern, cosmopolitan, global, very much Indonesian, and also Muslim. As the anthropologist Suzanne Brenner emphasizes, the presentation of Muslimness is an expression of global modernity that contrasts with Westernness. It's an alternative modernity in a post-colonial context. On the other hand, while the adoption of Middle Eastern culture can be understood as a turning away from or refusal to accept Western or Euro-American supremacy, it has raised concerns about the preservation of local culture within Indonesia. Some people in Malang criticized what they saw as more orthodox Islamic expressions of piety as being too culturally Arab or Middle Eastern rather than Javanese, emphasizing that Javanese have their own culture. And other anthropologists also found similar critiques in Java and Indonesia in the 1980s, 1990s, and in the 2000s. I found these critiques in the 2000s as well. In Malang, while most of the people I talked to about Javanese spiritual beliefs and practices positioned themselves against people that they saw as more orthodox Muslims, many Javanese spiritual beliefs and practices are part of what the anthropologist Timothy Daniels identifies as the Islamic spectrum in Java, and are connected to forms of Islam that have been embraced for centuries and closely linked to Javanese performing arts. The dances that I studied, which are in gendered styles, can be performed by dancers of any gender identity, although there are some conventions in Malang in terms of people of which gender tend to perform which dances. These dances included beskalan, remo, and mass dance. So beskalan and remo both are found in female or putri and lanang styles. So for here, for example, I've got beskalan putri. You can see the female style to my right, and beskalan lanang, or the male style, to my left. And both of the models in these pictures are both people who identify as women. You can see the female style. Well, actually, these pictures may not show it so clearly, but the female styles tend to have a lower arm position than the male styles and a more narrow stance. Now, the particular photo of beskalan lanang, I realized here, her arms are not high, but the basic position in beskalan lanang is kind of more like this, right, rather than female, where it's a little bit lower and closer to the body. Remo lanang is another dance that I studied. You can see the male style to my right, and then the female style to my left. You can see me in the background trying to keep up with the performer there. I was very generously given many opportunities to perform in Indonesia, which is kind of a separate topic, but people there were very receptive to me trying the art forms out and were very, very supportive and tolerant of my errors. Yeah. This is a picture of a mask dance, just so you can get a sense of what mask dance looks like. I do have a short video clip of mask dance, so you can see it in action. Really incredible art form as well. There's both male and female forms, or male and female characters that are represented in mask dance. This is a male style in this photograph here. So lots of incredible arts. Okay. I have so much to say. I'm really trying to keep to my topic here, otherwise I'll just go on for days. So to explore the preparation of a learner's body to become a suitable container for ilmu as a form of pedagogy, I extend Kathy Foley's and Sarah Weiss's discussions of an empty vessel approach to performance that is valued in different parts of Java. And I should mention that Kathy Foley and Sarah Weiss, if you're not familiar with these names, are both scholars of Indonesian performing arts, so very much drawing on their work. So this empty vessel approach assumes that to truly perform with rasa, or feeling, in a way that truly impacts audiences, their minds, and their bodies, performers need to be appropriate empty vessels. That is, they empty their bodies and their minds of themselves so that they can be filled by spiritual being, spiritual power, the characters of dances, the musical compositions, and/or ilmu, or spiritual knowledge, any of which help the performer to perform beyond their regular abilities. One implication of the empty vessel approach when it comes to ilmu is that ilmu is substantive and can literally fill a body to give a person a remarkable ability, whether or not the person comprehends the knowledge with their mind. Given that bodies are gendered and sexed, embodiment and movement of ilmu to and from bodies has gendered implications. And in the cases that I present, movement of ilmu between bodies can demonstrate ways culturally constructed boundaries of gender and sex can be crossed, complicated, and subverted. So ilmu, which is an Indonesian word, or elmu or ngelmu in Javanese, is a complicated term in Java with different shades of meaning. As an Arabic-derived word, it has broader meanings as knowledge or science. It also has shadings that are more closely connected to mystical beliefs in Java and practices. Like the anthropologist Clifford Geertz, who conducted fieldwork in Java in the 1950s, I found that some individuals talked about ilmu as, quote, a kind of substantive magical power, unquote, suggesting a continuity of ideas about ilmu. While I recognize that ilmu, as it relates to mystical beliefs and practices, may mean different things to different people, I have come to understand ilmu as a substantive packet of knowledge, often of a secret and esoteric nature that can lead to a remarkable ability to do something by helping a person to access and embody spiritual power. As the scholar Benedict Anderson has emphasized, knowledge becomes the key to this divine energy. While there are more secular and more spiritual shadings of ilmu as a term, I recognize a continuum connecting these shadings, and that sometimes it's not so easy to distinguish secular from spiritual, that for many artists I consulted, a clear secular-spiritual distinction often did not exist, and that in many ways secular or more secular leaning and spiritual or more spiritual leaning knowledge are linked. Unless otherwise specified, however, when I refer to ilmu, I am referring to the spiritual dimension of the term. Ilmu in the performing arts is closely related to affect and effect, which many Javanese artists, including the musicians and dancers I consulted in Malang, talked about in terms of rasa. Rasa is a Sanskrit-derived term for feeling, mood, and/or taste that is closely tied to the artist's deep understanding of the art, such as a dance or musical composition. For those artists who emphasize the importance of ilmu, the assumption is that one needs ilmu to truly perform with rasa. Technical skill alone is not sufficient. And we can talk about this more during the Q&A forum. I think we have similar ideas in the United States about, kind of a performer performing with charisma, right? Like there might be somebody who's like technically super amazing on the piano, but there's something maybe flat about their performance versus other performers who just like really, really draw you in with their charisma. So this is not to say that we don't have this here. I was just really drawn with the way that people talked about it in Java in kind of a different way, and the way that they talked about how you gain this sort of charisma. So this raises the question and my own interest in how somebody can gain ilmu. In many ways, rasa and ilmu in the arts are parts of a larger system of Javanese mysticism, which has synthesized indigenous animism and streams of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam that entered Java through hundreds of years of South Asian and Middle Eastern cultural influences. As indicated, ilmu has no form and is invisible, but it does have substance, like an invisible gas, and is transferable. or at least this is the way that I have come to understand it. Transmission often involves the movement of ilmu from one person's body to another, or from an object, so that the recipient comes to have, hold, own, or incorporate it into the person's own body. In short, ilmu can be embodied, is embodiable, and can be transferred in a variety of ways, including conceptually and physically. So here I provide just a few examples. Conceptually speaking, my teachers, most of whom were male, gave me, a woman, ilmu, in bits of knowledge about dance technique, the character portrayed, or the meanings of a movement or composition title conveyed verbally. This was ilmu that I comprehended with my mind and through my mind, and arguably borders on secular shadings of ilmu as knowledge. Ilmu may also be physically transferred. Some performers identified objects that contained something. They would often say, this has something to it, or something in it, or just it has something, which I understand as ilmu. These objects might include parts of dance costumes, including the dance scarf. Like you can see this performer modeling in this photograph, so the yellow dance scarf that is flipped around and manipulated. This something could also reside in certain masks. So this performer is wearing a mask. And it's kind of hard to see in this photo, but if you look at his right ankle, which is behind his body, it has a set of ankle bells around it. It's called a gongsang. For some people too, like that could also have something in it as well. There's other objects too, puppets or daggers, rings. Usually it was the stone of a ring that was believed to have something, and so on. So the implication is that an individual absorbed the ilmu contained in these objects by wearing them or keeping them close, and an individual was thus able to access or hold the spiritual power necessary to perform efficaciously. These objects could be transferred between men and women, as was the case when one of my male masked dance teachers gave me a set of ankle bells with something, ostensibly to help me learn and perform the male-style mass dances I was learning with him and others, which use these ankle bells. And in theory, it would also help me with the female-style dances that use the ankle bells as well. For the male-style mass dance and non-mass dances, he, as a man, was transferring ilmu to me, a woman, so that I would be better able to embody maleness when I performed. I view this as a means by and through which dominant conceptions of boundaries separating maleness and femaleness were crossed and subverted. Ilmu can also be physically transferred by osmosis. So my dance teacher, Jupri, pictured here, encouraged me to frequently come to his house so that my abilities as a musician and dancer would improve just by being near him, as his ilmu permeated into my body. Here, too, a person does not need necessarily to rationally grasp the ilmu in order to gain it, be affected by it, or to affect others with it. Interestingly, I was studying female and male style dances with Jupri, contributing to crossings of boundaries of gender and sex. In some cases, it was ilmu about a female style dance that he embodied as a man and was transferring to my female body. Sometimes it was ilmu about a male style dance that he embodied that he was transferring to my female body, helping me as a woman to embody and express maleness. In either case, his work transferring ilmu was reinforcing gender fluidity, despite the boundaries established and promoted in dominant Indonesian discourses. A couple of performers transferred ilmu to me in the form of words, chants, spells, and prayers conveyed orally or through writing. I was assumed to gain ilmu regardless of whether I understood the words, as they permeated my body in various ways, including through my ears as I heard them, through the touch of the person giving them to me, through committing words to memory and thus making them part of my mind, or through the possession of words with papers on through the possession of paper with words on them. And in one case, I was encouraged to take words that were written on a piece of paper, burn the words, put the ashes into water or tea, and drink the words. So I would like literally internalize the ilmu that way. Yeah, we'll see if that had an effect. For artists who gave me ilmu in the form of words, doing so was a spiritually potent form of pedagogy to increase my capacity as a vessel for knowledge, ability, power, and charisma as a performer. For example, doing what he could to help me to become a better performer by making me a stronger vessel. The gamelan musician and drummer Juma'i, pictured here, gave me ilmu in the form of what I interpret as Muslim prayers, as he repeatedly used the Arabic word Bismillah, or in the name of Allah, and Yo Allah, thereby connecting Javanese spiritual beliefs and practices to Islam. For example, he spoke a prayer so that audiences would like my performances and so that my art or performances would not be plain, clarifying that he would give me a little ilmu at a time. One implication is that if he gave me too much at once, my body may not have been strong enough to hold it. Indeed, gaining too much ilmu at once carries risks, such as becoming ill, going insane, or even dying. In giving me a little at a time, he was gradually strengthening me and preparing me as a vessel to be able to receive, contain, and embody more ilmu, spiritual power, spirits, and works of art. As the interview with Juma'i continued, he gave me more ilmu in the form of prayers. I asked him about his experiences as a musician, but he kept steering the conversation back to ilmu, showing that he placed a lot of importance on that in order to help me become a better musician, and more specifically, a better drummer. As he transferred ilmu from his male body to my female body, he in effect also subverted culturally constructed boundaries of gender and sex, which was all the more striking given that usually, but not always, men play the drum. I recognize that as a foreigner, I was also a bit outside of the gender system in Java, but me being a woman receiving ilmu from his male body was nonetheless a gender crossing. A person may gain the strength and enough strength necessary to productively possess ilmu in a variety of ways. While a special few are endowed with enough strength from birth, most gradually need to develop it, often by making some sort of sacrifice, often in the form of asceticism, such as fasting, going without sleep, abstaining from sex, meditating, soaking in rivers late at night, visiting and making offerings at grave, and so on. Other forms of sacrifice include giving up money, physical health, and also time. One of my teachers highlighted ascetic practices. Oh, Jupri, he's right here. Going back to Jupri, he highlighted ascetic practices that he undertook prior to studying the drumming for Beskalan Putri from his grandmother. So again, we've got a gender crossing of ilmu between his grandmother and him. And he said that she frequently gave him ilmu. In fact, he attributed most of what he could do to his studies with her and the fact that she transferred her ilmu to him. So for studying the drumming for this particular dance, he related that he learned the drumming after just 3 times of practicing with her, which is remarkable because the dance is long and the drumming is quite complicated. The version that he taught me was about 34 minutes, but it could be stretched to much longer by extending certain sections of the dance. To prepare himself, he recalled, he fasted for a day and a night, made offerings, and stood for a day and a night with his arms tied up to a beam. Through his account, he communicated the importance he placed on his spiritual preparation to learn as he strengthened himself as a vessel for his grandmother's ilmu by means of sacrificing physical comfort and time. Just speaking of time, I realized that I also too kind of want to get through kind of the next bit of my slides kind of more on the quick side so that we have plenty of time to hear Ki Midiyanto, or I should say Ki Midiyanto performing. So I'll go through these slides a little bit. If you want to hear more details, we can talk about them during the Q&A. One thing that I just wanted to mention was that dreams can be interpreted as a means of calling somebody to a particular art form and sort of a means of telling someone to sort of start preparing themselves as a vessel for ilmu. So one person who explained this to me was a musician named Panoto. He talked about it being necessary to be strong in order to receive ilmu. So for example, a person needed to fast or not sleep very much in order to receive ilmu. And he talked about how he also talked about how dreams can kind of show you the future. And he talked about how he, as a boy, dreamed of becoming a puppeteer, which he later became. He also talked about having a dream that he was a good drummer before he started drumming. Supriyono, who is the man pictured here with the mass dance costume on, when I asked him how he started to learn Gunung Sari, he started off with a story about how he dreamed of a mask, although he didn't know what the mask, who it represented, and he went to one of his mentors and asked him about it. He said, oh, that's the Mask of Gunung Sari. You should study this dance, but before you do, you should do these certain ascetic practices and then go to a master dance teacher and do it. So Supri, in telling me this story, was showing the importance that he placed on doing the spiritual practices before he started to study the dance. And just so that you have a little bit more of a sense of what some of these dances look like, I have a video clip of a mass dance being performed. And I'm going to bump it forward a little bit. Here you go. Okay, so just, it's incredible, and it's really amazing the way that the dancers can make the mask really, really come to life. If you liked that clip, you can also find it on YouTube. And really, if you do a Google search for like mass dance Malang, there's a wealth of video clips on YouTube. Yeah, spiritual preparation was also important to some of my teachers. So the man pictured to my right is Ki Midiyanto, who is one of my teachers in Malang. And kind of at the start of my fieldwork, he felt it was very important to prepare me spiritually to receive ilmu about the dances that I was studying and to prepare me to be sort of receptive and ready to study the dances, the music, as well as the Javanese language, all of which were part of my fieldwork endeavors. And following his directive, my husband and I held a small slamathan, or little ceremony, at the house that we were renting. Our housekeeper, Rokana, who is pictured here, prepared 4 bowls of red rice porridge, and Soleil came to preside, and over some burning incense cubes said some prayers asking that my studies go smoothly. And I do have to admit, the hairs on my neck stood up while he was praying. I was quite moved that he wanted me to succeed. And after he said these prayers, he had me give 3 bowls of the rice porridge to the neighbors, and then he, my husband, and I split the 4th bowl. So it also became something that very much involved the local community there. Another means of preparing oneself as a vessel is asking for permission from appropriate spirits, often at grave sites. So this was part of the learning process. I was encouraged by dancers and friends, for example, to visit what was believed to be Gunung Sari's grave. And I forgot to mention, so Gunung Sari, the dance, is part of this Panji story cycle, which is kind of about the adventures of a Javanese medieval knight and prince and later king named Panji as Morobangun. Whether or not Panji and the other characters in the story actually existed or whether they were more mythical is a subject of debate. Some people very much believe that they were actual real people. Some people may not necessarily believe that. It's kind of like the King Arthur characters. You know, it's kind of like, were they real? Maybe there was a real person, but the stories about them were sort of enhanced through storytelling processes. Or maybe they were completely fabricated. But I was told to go to the grave of what was very much believed by many people to be Gunung Sari's grave in Malang. And I was told to go there to, just sort of like ask for permission and blessing to perform his character, basically. So I did do that a number of times, and its beautiful location and its quiet did invite reflection and meditation that gave me time and space to think about the dance and my relationship to it. Importantly, I did not go alone, but with a group that sometimes included one of my teachers. Feeling the support of the community in my efforts to study Gunung Sari was also important in helping me mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to continue my studies, and gave me the confidence and sense of permission to keep going and perform the dance. In other words, going to the grave was making me a stronger vessel. The emphasis on ilmu, I have contended, was part of performers' cultural work to maintain local culture and ways of knowing, teaching, learning, and doing the arts despite the influences of Western and Middle Eastern cultures that have been aspects of globalization and urbanization in Java. And in so doing, in many cases, performers were thereby challenging dominant Indonesian conceptual boundaries of gender. Okay, so thank you. I will stop there and invite the screen to rise. Thank you. And also, Ki Midiyanto will be coming up onto the stage. And our big reveal here. To play this instrument for you. So this is one of the instruments from the gamelan ensemble. It's called the gender. And in the gamelan ensemble, it's what's called a melodic elaborating instrument. So in the gamelan, there's different instruments that play different roles in the ensemble. There are instruments that mark, it's called like the gong structure. So there's an instrument that marks, like, say, every 16 beats and tells you that we're end at the gong cycle. There's instruments that subdivide the cycle into different phrases. There's instruments that play a basic melody, and then there's instruments that elaborate the melody. So this is an instrument that usually elaborates the melody. So you'll see it has a really beautiful, kind of elaborate melodic playing style. I can't quite see him. Oh, here he is. Are you ready? Yes, please. This is Ki Midiyanto. Yes. He comes from many generations of artists in Indonesia, with like 11 generations of puppeteers and gamelan musicians, originally from Central Java. He has also been teaching in the United States and internationally for many years, and has a real gift to kind of communicate the intricacies and nuances of gamelan music to American audiences. So it's been my extreme pleasure to be able to have had the opportunity to bring him here for this presentation. So I will turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much, Professor Christina Sunardi, who engaged me to be part of this event. And thanks very much for the museum, Mr. Simon, who contacted me directly via emails, and so far, so good. Was surprised. It's just like a surprise for me is having that I visit perform somewhere, and this time that I got provided by the museum, picked up from the airport using limousine. Do it more often, Mr. Simon. Thank you very much. Again, it's a privilege to be here. I'm going to play the instrument, as Professor Christina has mentioned to you, that this is only a part of one of the instruments out of 35 ensemble in the gamelan. How many of you never heard gamelan before? Okay, so gamelan is an orchestra that's played by 35 instruments, and the function is in Indonesia is for any different kind of function, ceremonial, or commencement, graduation, and usually when there is gamelan, it's always something else. So gamelan is orchestrated to accompany something, dance, and mostly wayang performance. How many of you have seen wayang performance, wayang kulit? That's quite a few, right? So it's 8 hours at night from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. non-stop. Yeah, so we have to take the reason I asked that, because this instrument is called gender, spelled the same as gender. It's have a very important role. It can be a drone, can be the elaboration of the framework of the songs. The drone for the dalang, the dalang is the puppeteer who performs by using puppets and singing. When the singing without the drone during the night of the gender, if you're not a perfect pitch, your singing is not. It's going to be chaos. Yeah, and all night is divided into 3 sections. If you familiar with sorry to bring it up, Indian music, morning raga, afternoon raga, and the evening raga. So these are like the key signature. And each ragas or each mode, they have a different kind of formula in the wayang. So like yes, it's divided into three sections in Java. But anyway, and this is one kind of instrument that's very modern, decorated beautifully, imitation gold leaf. That's very rare in 20, 30 years ago to have this. And sorry to tell you, this is actually my own belonging instrument used to be. And I donated to Professor Christina the whole set with return of couple dollars of thousand. So, and then in America, sorry, I have to talk. In America, there are about 200 sets of gamelan in United States. And the set that in UW, one of the best set in America out of 200. Yeah, and well, you can see the evidence, you know. Yeah, so. Okay, so yes, now I'm going to perform 3 different songs. One, that song's a song that's stand by itself, so it can be for like somebody having meeting or have a lunch or dinner, and the background is using this. And then secondly, I'm going to use songs. 2 songs that to accompany the puppeteer singing. So it's free rhythm. So the first song is there's a rhythm, and the last 2 songs is no rhythm, and the feeling is one is very relaxed, relaxed kind of situation on the screen on the theater, but one is somebody's very angry. Yeah, and later on your quiz is going to be. Is that really relaxation kind of song, or is it really angry? But maybe you just, I don't know, because like when I eat pizza, it's all pizza. And I'll give you this, the drone, the key signature. So what I play, firstly, this tells you what mode. Is it D major or F minor? In the gamelan, I do this kind of particularly mode. It's like this. So this is the key. That the song, the tonic should be this. And then here is the song. This song is to accompany somebody just after got the ilmu. We connected what she was talking. Ilmu is our spiritual knowledge from, if this case is one character in the puppet, just digging the knowledge of spiritual knowledge from the hermit on the top of the hill, and coming back to the society, coming down from the hill, and using this kind of songs. Nalikani roheng dalu wong agung mangsa semeti sira Sutar sono wos tangungken nira ku Thank you. I think it's worth it with the limousine. And then after the songs followed by the more calm than the song itself. So also it's like prelude. So this is to tell that what mood that song is from this. I'm going to, can be just for just musical thing, or can be just for the wayang shadow play. So I'll sing. This is, so I pretend the puppeteer, and this is the gender. Actually, is related gender gender. Actually, in the past 19th century, the gender player have to be woman. And then the past of 50 years, starting. And then losing out as a man playing. And then 20 years ago, now go back, the youngsters playing the Gender because of the University of Gamelan, or conservatory. And it's like this. Sorry my singing, because I'm not Stevie Wonder. That's mean, you know, in Javanese, you're not playing and singing together. Never. One of your mind gone. Two directions. But Stevie Wonder is amazing kind of a creature, human being. So here it is. Cah ning yaning talaga kadi langit mambang tepasulan upamane koho. And then in the middle, where descending from the mountain, this knight, this person who's gaining a spiritual level, approached by ogre, approached by demon. And the demon is very angry. Who are you? This is my territory. Get out here, or else you don't have any identification in my territory. And then this is to bring that giant really, really angry. It's company like this. Putra Pandhawa tata kadi wisaya Hendriyaksa Sara Maruta Bawa Napana Margana Samirana lan warayang Ponco payu isian pagulingan lima Who are you? Followed by that conversation.
Okay, well, you can see why Ki Midiyanto is such an amazing performer and how lucky people are to study with him. Yeah. Including me, too. I was a graduate student at UC Berkeley, so I had the opportunity to study with Ki Midiyanto at Berkeley my last few years or so there. It was really, really, really special. And in fact, we sort of met each other without really knowing it when I was an undergraduate at UC San Diego. Well, the music department organized a performance of Javanese shadow puppet theater featuring him as the puppeteer. So I got to go to that, and that was also something that really inspired me to go to Indonesia back when I was a wee undergrad. I did have a couple of sort of like prepared questions to ask Ki Midiyanto, but I also, like, if you've got questions after he's been playing, and this is so beautiful, I also want to allow plenty of time for you to ask questions, and or if there's something else you might like to hear. It's kind of hard for me to see. I think this microphone, I can move it, right? If you want to bring it. Yes? Well, while I am getting this microphone out and figuring this out, one question that I was hoping Ki Midiyanto might share with us is just, like, how did you learn? Just kind of thinking about, different aspects of pedagogy. Like, did you learn within your family? Did you go to a conservatory? Did you take lessons? I'm just curious about how people in different cultures around the world, like how they learn their art.
Thank you for the questions. As you mentioned before when I was in the audience, actually I'm a 11th generation of gamelan artist. So before, I learned start when I was 9 years by listening only, because when my father performed every night, a good month is June, July, August, every night, every single night, 9 hours performances. So non-stop, and I was in elementary school. And I listened automatically from the melody, from the musician. I was even not playing, and then, oh, is that? And then when back home, after the performances, I just tried to fooling around to listen. And that's what I listened to. And then my high school is the Conservatory of the Art. That's from there, I start learning, like, if you're a music major here, you have to take the music fundamental 1, 2, 3, and so on. Which is before I just play according what I know, and then when I went to the conservatory, the first year start, your technique beautiful, but I think your treatment is how to play correctly. It's gross. My teachers are like that. Wow, that was what? I thought that I learned from my father, the master among the musician and puppeteer in the city. Yeah, but the conservatory is, yeah. They have their own way to do things. So yes, so I was trained in the conservatory at school for 4 years, and then university levels another 5 years, and then in between when I was in the conservatory, high school, or University of Gamelan, I performed with a very, very well-known group. One of them was Condong Raus. Condong Raus is one of the best group in Java that I was playing with. That's how I start my career as a gamelan musician, and yeah, that's what's it.
Turned it off. Test. Okay. Thank you. And could you just tell us too, like, how did you come to teach at Berkeley? What brought you to the United States?
1983, I was the freshman at the University of Gamelan. I was appointed by my school to teach, to help the Indonesian cultural attaché in Indonesian embassy in Wellington for 1 year, and went back home. And there's an opportunity for an exchange student at San Diego State University 1996. And the requirement of that San Diego job, exchange, you have to speak English a little bit. So that's why I was chosen from the school again. Then I went home. Then after that, after San Diego, I moved to Portland. That's where I got my Master Art in Teaching, and my topic was cross-cultural method of teaching. I just took classes, that's all. I mean, I know, I don't know. So, and that was, I graduated from there, Lewis and Clark College, Portland, Oregon, 97. Then, okay, so I went home. There's job search at UC Berkeley, 2002. 2002 is job search. So my friends applied from school, 5 of them. And I also applied. So that's how I get the job at UC Berkeley. But at the same time, also I applied for Fulbright at Maine, Portland, Page College. I got that too, at the same time for the Fulbright. Then what is this? I have no idea. I just apply everything. I have no experience of anything. But what is Fulbright? What is well, so the UC Berkeley is a part-time job actually, and then Fulbright. And I talked to people, including Professor Andy Sutton. I asked, what is the difference? Well, part-time at UC Berkeley can be long time term, and then Fulbright is a high prestige. But then many people told me that, why don't you take UC Berkeley? And I took the UC Berkeley, and that's why. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, lucky me that you took the Berkeley job. I think I saw a hand here.
Thank you very much for the lovely performance. I really, especially from your last explanation, of all the places that you've studied since in the U.S. here, I wonder how from all the teaching and learning that you've done here, if that's affected the way that you approach your playing now, like how over time what was rooted in learning from your family for so many years up through the conservatory in Java to here, if that's developed you in any significant way. What has the U.S. affected your ilmu? Is that how you say? What effect has the West had on that, I suppose? Thank you again.
A great question. Most ilmu of teaching, because the word of cross-cultural teaching, that is never occurred in Indonesia. So I learned from that class. And I changed the method a little bit from the school with my own method, but using the evidence, the experience of my teaching in the classroom. In Indonesia, when you teach whatever you want. If your student don't know, just F. But in here, I teach what is my students wanted. It's a different method. Yeah. So whatever you like. So gamelan is a strictly classical court royal palace music, which is in here. Many of my students on this culture here in America, kind of not really what is royal palace. I mean, right? So that's so I adjusted not to bring too much about promoting court cultural, but instead promoting work together from my students. Yeah, like an example, I have 100 students every semester at UC Berkeley. That's amazing. The largest gamelan class in the world is UC Berkeley. Was because I give my knowledge to whatever you want, my students want. And sometimes I use the Western music, which is not occurred in Indonesia. Like you guys in this culture here, you always give encouragement to your student. Oh, you're doing well, wonderful. Actually, no, it's not. Yeah, it's not. And even the student here admitted that, no, it's okay. I'm not really well. See? That's if it's Indonesia, no. You have to study hard. What you do? Nothing. It's like that. So no encouragement, another word. Yeah, Indonesian culture. But here I adjusted to this culture, and that's why my method of thinking. Oh yeah, well, you're doing okay, but can be better. I say that, and then the student asked me, what did I do wrong? Well, you're not even bad yet. Yes, yes, that's that. Yeah, and then, what does that mean? And I said, well, Google. Google, what does that mean? Not bad yet. It's not even bad. Maybe below worse. Thank you.
Oh, we have another question. While I'm passing the mic, I just want to say from my own experience, Ki Midiyanto has been a real master of being able to teach Americans in a way that we can understand the music for those of us who haven't grown up hearing it. So many of the students, not all, but so many of the students who are in the conservatories in Java, like they've been hearing this music since they were, you know, little kids and babies and stuff like that. So they have a sense of the sensibility and the aesthetic that a lot of us foreigners don't have. And so Ki Midiyanto has been really, really great about making that accessible and like bringing us in as adults who haven't grown up with it. It's really, really wonderful.
Thank you. Do you expect the audience members to receive ilmu from you as you play?
Good question.
That's a very important question. My professor, gamelan professor, in the University of Traditional Art, learning gamelan, told me that knowledge for gamelan, we call it karawitan, it's insider knowledge. No need appreciation from anyone else. It's so complex. But what I'm expecting from you here especially, just have a good time. It's like me when I comes to opera. I don't understand the language. Even the singer, we don't understand the meaning, but the melody and the mood is acceptable. Yeah, universe. So you can enjoy without knowing anything. My topic again is a pizza. When I came here, when I eat pizza first time, I no need to know the name. Just eat it and tasty, and I like it. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, that was good. Can I just add on to that real quick? I just wanted to share that of the musicians that I worked with and the dancers that I worked with, not everybody was necessarily subscribing to these ideas of ilmu that I was presenting. And it is a complicated thing in Indonesia and in Java. Like some people are kind of like, ilmu, again, it does have that also meaning of like just kind of more generic knowledge, kind of secular knowledge. Like I learned about the gender today, I got that form of ilmu. And not necessarily the sort of like, I gave you a magical substance from my body kind of thing. And again, for some people, it's also kind of like in between. A lot of my dance teachers and other musicians said to me that my primary drum teacher in East Java, his name was Kusnadi, was giving me his ilmu, like on the spiritual level. They're like, how are you learning so fast? He must be giving you his ilmu. I know he's giving you his ilmu. So I went and asked him, I said, are you giving me your ilmu? And he said, no, you're practicing a lot every day. I'm teaching you good technique. I'm not giving you my ilmu, which is I thought that was a really interesting answer. And so then I went back to my dance teachers and said, he said he's not giving me his ilmu. Like he's teaching me technique, I'm practicing, like that's where it's coming from. And they said, he's giving you his ilmu. So just like really interesting takes on it. And sometimes people don't want to talk about it. I've been kind of careful in my presentation to share things that I have understood were appropriate to share. And some people like they don't want to talk about it. So it's not always readily talked about. So.
Yeah, in the back. Yeah.
I'll try it again. Here we go. Thank you so much. 2 questions. Did your father approve of your conservatory training, or did it change? All right, 3 questions. And my other, do you, for those of us who go to bed early, offer a matinee version of the show?
What's just the second question?
Like a matinee version of Wayang, so if people can't stay up all night, if there's like a daytime version?
Yes, okay. To answer the first question, no, my father ended up learning from me. Because he, in the level of musical, he just ended up learning up to the Three Blind Mice kind of things. And I'm already in the Beethoven fifth. So it's no complaint from him. When he's happy, because sometimes when he performs, I brought 5 or 7 my friends from conservatory. And the performance is becoming like, oh my God, what is this? They love it, the village love it. And then matinee. So wayang performance of the 8 hours, it's divided into 3 sections. 8 to 11, 11 to 1, 1 to 3. Those sections is a section for different kind of people who can appreciate. So that's from the first section, mostly for youngsters, because it's mostly fighting and argumentation. And the second section in the middle is a spiritual level, knowledge teaching. Actually, this kind of ilmu is taught by Dalang in the middle of this performance. And the third section is the climax, lots of fighting. And even in the past, parents, mother, father, brought their children in the last section. They enjoying the fighting scenes, acrobatic, because otherwise the whole performance is spiritual teaching actually. So children won't understand and things like that. Thank you very much. Is that it's the matinee? Yes, we reduce now. If you a big sponsor or whatever, I can do it 1 hour for the whole one.
Got a question right here.
Thank you.
I think I've got it here. So, I just wanted to know how much of what you play is traditional music, and how much do you create while you're playing?
It's strictly traditional. So like when you only a little bit there. So like when you make a fried rice, still the same ingredients, but some of you like more spicy and more salty, just like that. But it's strictly same. So like when I ask you, give me a rose, and I didn't say any words, right? Red rose, white rose, or yellow rose. So you just bring me the white rose. It's okay, it's still rose. That's it. So it's not much, right? As long as don't give me jasmine. That's against the treatment. You know, even same as flowers, different type, right? But roses it's okay. Yes, ma'am. So because this is classical, you cannot improve. This is another thing. Sorry that I read lots of dissertation by outsiders, theorists here in America, because lots of them gamelan is a percussive instrument, and lots of them, when you're doing percussion, lots of improvisation, right? But in the gamelan, yes, you can do that, but improvise with only 2. You want 2 things. You want to be spicy or not spicy, just like that. Just based on those 2, not making, oh no, I want it sweeter. No, the sweet is not in under category. So that is not improvising. Thank you.
Thank you for the performance and the introduction, the lecture. My question is like, I'm wondering the music and the dance are using to healing the community psychic, or like any effect in the community psychology? Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, do you want to speak to this?
No, because that is not my dissertation, so it should be her answer.
The dance Paskalan Putri that I studied and that I researched, so Jupri, who was in the picture with me, his grandmother, when she was performing the dance, did often do it as a form of healing. So the dance could be performed either as kind of like secular entertainment, and it could also be performed in contexts where it did have a spiritual impact. So for example, it could be used for exorcisms if somebody was believed to be ill, unwell, and that was being caused by a spirit that needed to be appeased for some reason, and also for village purification ceremonies. And these like village purification, and exorcisms for that matter, like they still occur. Yeah, I mean, they still do happen in different ways. Like wayang, puppet theater, can be used for, say, like village purification ceremonies. Beskala Putri now, it's been changed over the years. So it started to change in like, I have to go back now and think about in the place in my book where I write about this. 70s and 80s or so, it was shortened down to become like a 10-minute dance rather than like older performers told me it used to go on for like 2 hours. And part of what would make it long was there was these singing sections where the dancer would sing and like they would stop dancing and sing. And then there were sections where the dancer would sing while dancing. But some of these singing sections were a part where like prayers could be sung and that could have this sort of spiritual efficacy. So removing that and making it a 10-minute dance, it sort of became recast as a symbol of like local identity, Malang culture, and it was a sort of nice female style dance that could be used for performances. An argument that I make in my book about this is that in some ways it was sort of removing some of the spiritual efficacy of the dance and from female bodies. So something that I look at in my book is how women's power has tried to be sort of like contained by various pressures in Indonesia, whether it's the government or I don't know, other factors. So I was kind of seeing like the recasting of Beskalan in that attempt to control female spiritual power in the way that the dance has changed. But there are people like Didit Nini Towok who are really uncovering that history and bringing to light that like this dance used to be something different than what we tend to see today, and that there's a long tradition of men performing the dance as well, and boys, male-bodied people performing it as a cross-gender dance. So I hope I'm kind of getting at that. But yeah, so I mean, some people do still believe that performing it has spiritual impacts, and even some of the movements like this, there's a movement that goes like this, that refers to like sweeping the space of bad energies, like sweeping it of like malevolent spiritual presence. So it's like, it's built into some of the dance movements as well.
Thank you, but I want to say your music really opened my spirit today, and a happy Lunar New Year.
Thank you. So actually,
Yes.
Dr. Christina, what he just said, that's what I was going to say, but because she speaks better than me, so I just let her go. So that's what's it. And just want to give applause to Professor Christina Sunardi. Mostly, she's an ethnomusicologist, a theorist, yeah, or what you call scholar, yeah. But many scholars usually they are not balanced with the practitioners. So she is scholar and well-known performers of dancing of East Java. Thank you very much. That's for sure. Yeah. But appreciate about my music that's touching you. Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, Christina. Good to see you, and Ki Midiyanto. Thank you for presenting this. I had a question of how do you think of gamelan and dancing and music within contemporary Indonesian culture? What is the role that it plays now among like Indonesians?
I'm going to answer a little bit, and then Professor Christina can add something. Okay, it's a good question. Yes, I strictly teach traditional wherever I teach, but also I open to the contemporary. In Indonesia right now, because the age nowadays, most youngsters love to make a contemporary gamelan songs, which is because of the academic degree. When you graduated, you can choose you want to what you call it, recital on a classical, or arrangements of a classical song, put it together, or completely contemporary. So the exceptional, actually, yes, of course. Maybe I'm the oldest here in the building, in this room. So, but it's very much attached to classical, but I'm open. Yes, in Indonesia, there's controversial. The old people, you play, you compose a gamelan without rule, blah, 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 blah. But now there's nothing such a rule of anything. Feel free, as long you have fans, you know, people like it, go for it. And the youngsters, that's what it is. And the audience for the wayang kulit, the shadow play in the past is like 50 years ago, about 100 at the most, or 120. But now thousands and thousands, and you have to perform in the soccer field. Those audience is not completely towards the wayang, the shadow play, but mostly because of the element of new contemporary part in the show. So like the singers, pop singers is in there, you know, rock singer part of the performances. That's so. Is that what is your question? Yeah, so it can be okay. Both way now it's okay, especially in the academic society that they're supposed to look after the traditional, right? But no longer. Yes, a song, gamelan and dance actually is the chord music. When you go to Indonesia to find authentic musician and authentic music, you have to go to the chord. And then 1960s, one of the princes boycotting of this, why the gamelan and sacred dance only can be learned in the chord. It's going to be dying out. And then this one of princesses established conservatory and the University of Gamelan and Dance in the Solo city. That's how now it's becoming very, very well known, received by the society. Otherwise, like my father's, because as I said, it's just playing a three blind mice level all the time. But if you go to the conservatory, you can learn the pieces, the sacred pieces from the royal palace, and so far. Thank you.
Time for one more question.
Thank you both. This has been a really great presentation. But I wanted to ask, early in your talk, you were mentioning that the dancers or the performers could receive the ilmu from, that would inhabit their bodies. And you used the word charisma a lot. But how is that different from a trance, where you really are inhabited in a trance state? Is that... I presume you've seen that too, because I think I have, yeah.
Yeah, I really love the question about how is it different from a trance. And I will say that I'm not a scholar of like altered states, and there's like very specific ways of talking about like trance and spirit possession, and so I don't know like all of those different nuances. But yes, what I saw, I think according to the system that I was writing about, in some ways, like this empty vessel approach to performing, kind of in an ideal situation, the dancer does sort of, like their self sort of leaves, and their body is there, and their body becomes a vessel for the composition that's being played or for the character that's being enacted. And for some people, they do talk about sort of not remembering the performance. They talk about not remembering, especially the dancers. I haven't really talked to so many musicians about that. Maybe since it's more obvious in some ways for dancers because they're performing a character. But sometimes they'll say like, I started dancing and then all of a sudden it was done. And I don't remember sort of what happened in between that. So that to me does indicate like a certain like trance-like state. I did also observe, it's called hobby horse dance, is one way to translate it, or jaranan or jarankepang, where they have these kind of like bamboo, like it's like woven with bamboo, and they ride these horses, and then at some point in the performance they do go into trance where they start doing feats of strength, like, I don't know, like they'll rip the coconut husks off of coconuts with their teeth, or they'll like get some thorny bush and kind of roll around in it and do other things like that. So I did see trance on that level, and the performers say that they don't remember what happened. However, there's a lot of people who pretend to go into trance for the spectacle of it and to participate in the troupe. I had one performer say that he was testing out the sort of leader of the troupe to see if the leader could distinguish whether or not he was in a real trance or not. So he faked it, and the troupe leader didn't notice. So it was this whole interesting thing. But I do feel that that is sort of part of it, and that is part of the goal, is to allow some sort of other presence to come into the body in some way for some people. I don't want to make this claim for everybody. But the times when I performed, well, when audiences thought I performed the best, or I should say, the best compliments I ever received was that, like, it wasn't you dancing. I saw somebody else behind you, or I saw the spirit of my uncle, like, go into you and like, help you out, which I also thought was a really interesting way, too, to think about, like, the agency of my of a learner or of a performer. It's not like, wow, you went and practiced 8 hours every day, and like you did a really great job because of what you did. It's more like you did a great job because you emptied yourself of your own self and allowed some other presence to come into you. So I just thought it was a really interesting way to think about that. Very humbling in a lot of ways. Yeah.
I will add to that about trance. Trance is two ways. One can be visually be witnessed by the audience. One is only the dancer or the musician can feel it. So, like when I play Kender seriously, this I feel like I'm getting high without taking anything. And then another example of the performance of the shadow play, my father, because the shadow play is using the ancient language is called Sanskrit, and he never learned Sanskrit even. So on the characters coming out all in Sanskrit, when I asked in the next morning, what do you mean by that? Why that character? I have no idea. I didn't say anything. Yeah, so it's like this kind of, if it's in Japanese, we call tetesan. Tetesan, that means is another power of creator that one with you in that moment. Yeah, but this cannot be just occur to any regular being. You have to practice spiritual level. So one of them is fasting, 24 hours fasting. That's the shortest 24 hours, and not to sleep for 24 hours, something like that. So you can gain. You can gain this kind of a spiritual level. Thank you very much.
I just want to thank Ki Midiyanto and Professor Christina Sunardi again for the amazing collaborative presentation. So just a round of applause.